meeting is being recorded.
We all want to be happy. We all want to be healthy, and we're all sometimes, unfortunately, human. And we have Paul Levitin, who is the host and creator of Happy, Healthy Human. And we are going to talk about what it means to be successful. Because if you start studying successful people, they'll all tell you success leaves clues. And one of the clues is making great decisions, self-integrity of following through on the things you tell yourself you're going to do, and really creating that trust in yourself. So Paul, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Sarah, and thank you for that introduction. That was awesome, and so much you already said in the first 30 seconds that I'm like, yep, that's exactly it.
That means I know what I'm doing, right? That's that's exactly the goal. So yeah, and that means you know what you're doing, because when you were talking about what you wanted to say, I was like, yep, aligned. And so let's chat about this, because I had someone on the podcast before, and they said, we all know that we can't do the same thing over and over again and hope to get different results, but only about, maybe he said 5%, but maybe about 5% of humans are really going to follow through on themselves. What do you see the differences are for people who follow through and who don't?
Yeah, 100%. And this is, the crux of everything, and the what I call the paradox of life, right? And this is it, right? The fact that we all want more out of life, but the thing is, more is hard to get. And inherently as humans, and well, as animals in general, but as humans, which are animals, we have a natural predisposition towards avoiding hard things, right? For better or for worse, whether you realize it or not, our genetic code wants us to avoid things that are dangerous, and it wants us to conserve energy. Right. That's just that's how we survive. We are survival machines, and we've been bred over tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands of millions of years of evolution to be the ultimate survivors. That's how we got to the top of the food chain. Right. There's a reason that we are where we are as humans. And now we are at a place in time where the last 100, certainly the last 50 years have exploded in advances of technology and what we're able to do as humans. And evolution just hasn't caught up yet. It's created what's called evolutionary mismatch. So what we have evolved to do and what we are capable of doing now are very different. And, super easy example is the fact that, food and eating, right? This is why the obesity epidemic exists, right? Because we've evolved to crave certain tastes, right? We crave sugary, salty, fatty, because in nature, these things are hard to get and they represent a high amount of calories. Fat has more calories than protein. Sugar is energy. So our taste buds crave these things. And if you were a caveman running around in the fields of the Serengeti or something like that, and you found a berry bush, then it would be a great thing for you to eat all those berries because it would give you lots of energy. But now we live in a world where Uber Eats will deliver a pack of Oreos to my face via drone in 30 minutes. And that craving of sugar actually backfires on me. So I use that as an example just to explain that everything that we want in life is kind of on the other side of that. The thing that's easy is what we've been evolved to do, right? Sit down, don't move. We need to exercise because our body craves exercise, but we don't do it because our genetics tell us to conserve energy in case a lion attacks us. But again, we're not living in a world where a lion's attacking us. These are easy examples, but the same principles apply towards business, right? Creating a business is hard. Going the extra mile to get that promotion is hard. Doing the extra work, anything extra is inherently extra. And that way, and so that is the whole thing, is that inherently inside of us, we have something deep down inside of us that's telling us like, no, don't do that, right? Keep watching Netflix. Don't stay on the couch. Don't do the thing. So that is the battle that we have to face. And that's the hard thing, right? So it's, and this comes when I'm saying this, people think it's like, I can just tell them this and be like, oh, okay, like now I just know, like, it's not that easy, right? That's the whole thing. It's hard. And that inherently is that, but to me, that becomes the guiding principle. And the way I live my life is like, I know that if it's hard and scary, that's the right thing for me to be doing. Because if my brain and my body are telling me like, just don't do that thing, I know that that's because it's what's safe and what's easy. And I know that progress and change only comes on this other side of what's hard and challenging. And when I say hard, I don't mean it in the way of like, oh, it has to be so hard. Like it has to be like hard, like lifting a heavy weight hard. I mean hard in the sense that you don't want to do it for whatever reason, right? So hard could be having a conversation with your spouse, right? You come home at the end of a busy day and you guys get into an argument, and what you should do and what the hard thing would be to sit and talk it out right there. But what everything in your body is telling you is just like, just go to bed. Who cares? We'll deal with this tomorrow. So hard is relative to the situation that you're in, but it's the thing that it's hard in this moment, but it will give us the benefit later down the road. And it's delayed gratification, if you want to just sum it up into one simple term.
I agree completely. And we get in these habits, right? And it's easier to just go on. That's why it's hard to build habits, right? And but if we don't build those habits, we go into automatic, and it's the getting out of the automatic that takes the switch, right? That takes the effort, the momentum.
Yeah. So this is, again, I talk about paradoxes a lot because this is exactly it, right? What we want is for these things to be automatic. This is why people talk about habits so much. It's like just make it a habit, and then it'll all be easier, because theoretically, when something's habitualized, we don't have to think about it as much. We don't have to use as much energy, right? If going to the gym is a habit, we think it's going to be easier. If eating healthy is a habit, it's a lifestyle, right? People throw these things around all the time. Make it a habit of journaling. Make it like, but the thing is that when it is a habit, that's what a habit is, right? Eventually your brain is smart, right? Like I just said, it's all about conserving energy. So your brain is going to go, if I'm doing this thing every day, I'm not going to, if I clearly I have to do it every day, I'm going to make it into a habit so that I don't have to spend so much mental energy to do it. If every day I wake up and I brush my teeth, I don't need to think left, right, left, right, left, right, up, down, up, down, up, down. My brain just knows how to do it. It puts that on autopilot because it goes, all right, we're going to do this over and over. There's no point to think about this. So the point is, when I do something enough, my brain will be like, okay, let's save some energy. Let's habitualize this. But the thing is that to get to that point takes a lot of upfront energy and dedication. And that's where, again, people mess up, because they're like, oh, like I just want this to be a habit. But it's like, it's it's the whole thing of like, you have to work very hard in the beginning to eventually get that benefit later down the road. And that's what throws people off. It's the analogy of the flywheel, right? So if you've ever heard of Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, he talks about that great businesses are a flywheel. And it's like a flywheel, if you can think about a big Ferris wheel type thing that's not moving at all. If you start to try to move it, a giant Ferris wheel, you can push and push and push and push and push, and it's probably not going to go anywhere, right? But if eventually you push and you really you get a few people and you really start to pull, it'll start moving very slowly, and then you finally take so much energy to get one rotation, and then you push it, and it doesn't take quite as much energy to get the second rotation, and then the third rotation, and all of a sudden, once it gets some momentum going, all it takes is a little slap to keep it moving. But it's the beginning. Right. There's a great quote. I think that's John Maxwell. It's the start that stops most people. Right. And it's that the fact that we have to put in so much energy up front. And again, this is not just about fitness. This is business too. Right. You can have a great business that's making hundreds of millions of dollars a year, but it didn't start that way. Right. You can be a great entrepreneur. You can be a great salesperson who's making great money, but you didn't start that way. So it's the upfront cost that really holds people back, because people want the result. Right? Of course, people want the result, but the result comes years from now, and the work comes now. And that is a bad deal to our brain. Your brain goes, well, no, I want stuff now. Why am I going to lay out energy? Why am I going to lay out my precious resources right now for something that might come in the future? So that's the hurdle that we have to get over, to be like, I understand that I don't get the benefit right now, but the payoff is big enough that it's worth the upfront discomfort that I'm going through today, tomorrow, this week, this month, this year.
And I think it's really important to normalize that piece of the human experience, because I think another way our brains can be tricky and conserve energy is to say, well, it must be easier for other people. Right.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why, again, my podcast, my brand is called The Last Word is Human, because I say this is human stuff, right? And this is why I can talk about this stuff. And, people will be nodding their head along, be like, yeah, that does happen to me, because this is humans. This happens to me. And I teach about this stuff, and I live this stuff, and I breathe this stuff. So there is a level of like, yes, you have to just understand that there is no way around this. And I think exactly that, right? People think like, oh, well, for them, it's different for you. It's different for you, Sarah. You're a motivational speaker. It's different for Paul. You are this guy, but it's not. We're all humans, and we all deal with this stuff in the same way. And that can be, motivational, or it can make us crumble, because it's like, oh, wow, it's just this hard all the time. But that's the thing, right? It's like, and to your point about the guest you had who said only 5% of people do it. It's something sad like that, because most people will just not get past that sticking point. They'll try and they'll stop. And, this is why my whole, I teach a course called How to Quit Quitting. And it's literally about just that, right? Because my whole theory is that everyone tries, everyone wants something bigger. But the thing is, we quit too early, right? You push that flywheel the first time, it doesn't move, and you go, well, I gave it a shot, didn't work, right? I tried to go out on my own, it didn't work. But the point is that everything comes at the other side of consistency. And the thing that separates the greats from the not greats, right? That, you mentioned studying success. That's what I consider myself to be, a student of success, right? I read a lot of books. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I've been fortunate enough to work with and coach many, many successful people, far more successful, financially than I have, guys with, 10 million, $100 million businesses, things like that. And I study, I ask questions. What is the thread that is so common in my clients in real estate, my clients in sales, my clients in whatever, in the motivational speakers that I met, and the people in the fitness world that I meet. And it's just a few certain things, and it's consistency, right? How do I persevere in the face of adversity? Can I be the type of person who doesn't give up? Can I be the type of person who's always looking to learn, right? A lifelong learner. Every person I know that's rich and successful, and I don't mean to say that being rich, it makes you successful, but I mean that rich and successful, because I think those two are separate things, are lifelong learners. They're people who read a lot. They study a lot. No one happens on this stuff by accident. So there are certain threads that we can look at and just go, all right, now again, if it were easy, everyone would do it. And then it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be important.
I want to say something about people don't just stumble on it themselves, because as I've gotten more, you hate to talk about yourself as successful, but as I've gotten more successful in my human experience, right, I'm even more likely to ask for help. And I think there's this idea that, oh, I can do it on my own. And I think that's one of the pieces about success leaving clues is, now if I have a problem to solve, I'm like, who does this? Who's the expert in this? Who knows how to do this, right? I'm not thinking, well, what am I going to do, myself, whether it's a personal problem or a practical problem. And I'm actually more capable than ever of solving my own problems. But I know there's people who are experts in solving those types of problems. And I really wanted to zone in on that, because if someone is kind of listening, it's like, oh, I'm just going to power through and figure it out myself. I want to point out that the most successful people are not using that language typically.
Yeah, for sure. And, it's a few things that led me to this conclusion. Again, multiple things led me to the same conclusion. One is, again, I listen to podcasts. That's why I love podcasts, because no other place could you hear top level people talking at the levels you do, right? So I hear, a podcast with CEO or a billionaire or something like that, and they all talk about the same thing. They all have a coach, right? They all have coaches. Again, Tiger Woods has a golf coach. Michael Jordan has a basketball coach. Right. And, people would tell me this because I started as a personal trainer. That's how I first got into coaching. And, people would always have this thing of like, well, why would I pay a personal trainer when I can do it on my own? Which is a fair thing to say, because you can do it on your own. And that's the whole point. You can do it on your own. But if you do, you're playing the game on hard mode, right? Like, I'm actively choosing to make this harder on myself. And if I understand that this is already going to be hard, and if it's too hard, I'm going to quit and then not get the result. The difference is what you're saying is that the result is not worth that amount of money for you. Because if we're talking about hiring a coach or buying a course or something like that, and you're saying, well, I'm just going to do it on my own. One, you're probably not going to get the result because you're going to get frustrated and you're going to quit before it actually gets there. And two, even if you do get the result, you're still paying because you're paying with time. And this is a big thing. I teach, money mindset with my clients. And a huge thing is that people value their money too highly and their time not enough. The number one thing that successful people do as soon as they have enough money is they start trading their money for time. Use your money to buy back your time. It's the most successful thing you can do. The most successful thing you could do and it can be something as simple as paying someone to go do your grocery shopping, right? They have Instacart now. They have all these things, right? Why am I spending 3 hours to do grocery shopping? If my time is worth more than $15 an hour and I can pay some kid $15 to go do my grocery shopping, that's a no-brainer for me, right? If I can take an Uber 45 minutes and be doing work in the back of the car rather than driving 45 minutes so I can save $40. Well, in 45 minutes, I should be able to make $40. So again, these things are no brainers to me, but people don't look at it like that. They just look at the upfront cost. I did a podcast about this a couple of weeks ago about the understanding of cost versus investment. And people look at coaching or again, educational programs or anything like that as a cost. Oh, this costs $5,000, $2,000, $1,000. That's so much money. And it's like, I mean, it's a lot of money, but if you look at it as an investment, if I spend $1,500 on a course, there's nothing that I could have done with that $1,500 in the stock market, in crypto, in real estate. It will do nothing for me. $1,500 does 8% on $1,500 over the next 5 years is going to make me like $500 in 5 years. $1,500 invested in a course, in books. If I went on Amazon and put $1,500 worth of books in my cart, there's no possible doubt in my mind that would exponentially blow up my life in a way that that money could never do any other way. So now I get it. Of course, there are people who are in a place who that amount of money is impossible. And for those people, then yes, you have to continue trading your time for money. But the moment you get the opportunity to flip that switch, that's the best thing that you can do with your money, is to buy back your time. And you use that by buying coaches who have done what you're trying to do. Right. So as a personal trainer, when I was training people, all you're paying me for is the fact that I have done the research. I've sat and watched the YouTubes. I've read the books. You can do it on your own for sure, but it's going to take time. You're going to mess up, and you're going to get the result that I could get you in 3 months. It's going to take you 3 years. So, I mean, what is that worth? To me, it's worth a lot. You know, I call it time collapsing, you know, and that's the most valuable thing, because we can make more money. You can never make more time.
I was talking to a lady, and I said that my daughter during COVID couldn't go to school. And so I said I hired a reading tutor for her to help her make sure her reading was on point before she went into middle and high school and this kind of thing. And, she was like terrified of investing in herself and that kind of thing. And I said, well, I mean, do you think that's a bad investment, that I spent that money on helping my daughter learn how to read? I mean, there's nothing to show for it. Right. And she was like, well, no, that's education. And I said, well, you're talking about happiness. Is your happiness not worth that investment? Like, and she, well, you're right. I mean, but it's not I know the people like you and I who think that like that, it's not a game. It's like watching someone drown and hoping to pull them out of the drowning. You're just like, man, you don't know how good it is on this other side. Like when you really think about investing in yourself and that idea of saving time, I heard a podcast one time about a CEO. I put this in my book, Problem Solved. And he spent all weekend trying to fix a printer in his house, like trying to install a printer, because he didn't want to pay the neighbor $25 to the neighbor kid, $25 to come install that printer. And, this coach was like, it costs you thousands of dollars. Like your time is worth, several $100s an hour, and you saved money by spending all weekend fighting with your wife over it, installing the printer. And then finally, even after the 2 days, still had to get the neighbor kid to come. And I really want to say, do you think we don't talk about this, but do you think it's a bit of ego and pride that is a part of that?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's again, there's a few different pieces. There's the money mindset, again, that we've just been raised that money doesn't grow on trees. So many people, especially right now today, we're in a very interesting time in human history where the generational gaps in terms of money are huge. And that's why this stuff is so huge right now, like coaching, right? Like your parents or grandparents didn't have the luxury of spending a couple $1,000s on a coach. They were literally surviving, right? Going back to human nature is to survive. But we are at a place now where money is so abundant that you actually can't, right? People are making $200,000, $500,000 a year in a tech career, right? Not as an entrepreneur or anything, like just being a coder or something like that for Facebook or something. People are making $150,000 a year doing something, and it's like when your cost of living is only so much, like the money is out there, right? So we're at a time where it's never been like this in human history, where there's been so much abundant money and people's brains haven't wrapped themselves around that. So that's one part, right? People look at money in a way that it's not like that anymore. Again, I create courses. I was thinking about this today. I create courses and people pay me for things. I literally just created money. Like there's no, I'm not delivering that. I'm delivering them my energy, my time and things like that. But it's like, they're not getting a physical product. Like I just created something. I spoke it into existence and people paid me actual real human dollars for it. And it's like, that's wild to me, so that was not a thing that was possible a generation or two ago. So that's part one. But then part two is, yes, the ego, because we have this feeling inside of like, why would I pay you when I could do it myself? And that's, again, especially with things like fitness or fixing things, right? Especially men have this weird ego about, I should be able to fix things. I should be able to do this. And I talk a lot about the shoulds in my courses and podcasts, because that's a whole nother can of worms that we can get into. But it's this ego thing of like, I should be able to do it on my own. And that if I ask for help, I am somehow less than. But in reality, this is completely wrong, because talking about human nature, and again, I mentioned before how humans became the top of the food chain. The way we became the top of the food chain is by collaboration. Humans are not the strongest, they're not the fastest, they're not the biggest animals. The only way that we were able to come to the top of the food chain is because we became collaborators, and the community and the tribe was how we survived and then thrived. Right. So now we have this weird place in time again, where exactly like, if this was 100 years ago, there was no, I'm going to do it on my own. You had to farm. You had to go to your neighbors to ask for this and this for that. You had to, if you were out farming, your neighbors watched your kids while that was happening. It was a communal experience. But now, especially in westernized cultures, we value so much independence and individuality that it becomes like a thing, like it becomes a badge of honor. Like, I did this, I did it on my own, I created this. And it's like, I mean, yeah, cool if you want to do that. But once again, you're playing the game on hard mode and you're asking for challenges when life is already hard. That's the thing. Like, if you want to do it, go ahead. But then you have to understand what you're asking for, what you're signing yourself up for, which is turning the volume up and the heat up even higher on a thing that's already going to be challenging, which to me is just like, no, I don't really want to do that.
I don't. I mean, that I don't do that. That is and I just think about it in terms of wisdom, right? So I think, man, I am just so comfortable in where my strengths are, and I'm so comfortable in only I can be doing this. And so I need to only be doing the things that only I can do and know how to do. And then everything else, someone else needs to do. Like, I can create a career or a job for someone, or I could help out someone with finances and they can help me out. I remember one time, I'm terrible at organizing. I think my spatial reasoning is just really off. And I paid a college kid to like organize my closet, because and we're not like Sex in the City fancy closet. We're just talking about, at the time, it was like just a disaster, right? And but it was such a good thing, because think about the level of stress every morning, starting my morning. I need to clean my closet. I need to clean my closet. I need to clean my closet. So was the investment worth it in my nervous system and lowering my stress, that I didn't start every morning frustrated, being reminded of something I'm not good at, which is organizing closets, right? That was a dang good investment.
Yeah. And it's so important, because you have to understand that our body and our brain doesn't discern stress, right? So stress is stress is stress. And we only have so much mental energy, and you can think of it as a bucket that you can fill with stress each day, or your energy bucket starts full and your stress bucket starts empty, and they kind of switch over the course of the day. And our body and our brain doesn't discern from stress. That's why exercise stress, work stress, family stress are all the same. So to your example, if you're waking up every morning and you're wasting all of this mental energy and burning your stress reserves on a closet, that's a $10 an hour problem. And now you are a CEO, an entrepreneur, at someone who has bigger fish to fry, so to speak. But you are using all your mental energy on these little things. It's like, exactly as you said, like, you should be thinking about high level problems. And so to free up some of that time and energy by, and again, you're helping someone, you just paid some kid, so to go drinking for the weekend. So that's awesome, right? It's a win-win for everyone. But again, people don't think of it like this, because we're so stuck in scarcity, right? It's the whole, like I can't give because like there's not enough to go around. So it's like, oh, I can't be spending all frivolously $50 here and there, even though, again, that's not really how the world works anymore. And $50 is nothing. I don't step out of my house for less than $50. Somehow it just withdraws from my bank account if I go out to lunch or step foot in an Uber or something like that. So it's like, we have these things around money that are so backwards, because again, everyone has a place where they're happy, healthy, and thriving. It's your zone of genius. And so what we should be doing is focusing on finding a way to create a life where I get to live in my zone of genius all the time. And that's the place where we find that flow state, the place where we're happy, we're energized, we're working, but it doesn't feel like work. If work, working on your closet is work, but it feels like work. Whereas working on your business is work, but it feels like fun. It feels invigorating. It energizes me rather than draining me. So it's like, how can I get rid of column A and get more of column B? And that's a place where, one, I'm happier, but two, I'm actually making more money, right? Because now I'm actually doing things that light me up, and I'm actually doing things that are profit producing. So if we can get out of this mindset of scarcity that holds us back, we're able to invest in ourselves more. We're able to push off some of those lower level things. And that's when we're really able to hit that hockey stick and skyrocket up to the moon.
I love it. Paul, tell people where they can find more out about you.
Yeah, awesome. So you can just find me across Instagram is where I'm most active, but any social media, it's just my name at Paul Levitin. So Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and I have, a podcast as well that I'm sure you can find links to here. You can search my name on, again, podcast, Spotify, wherever. I'm kind of everywhere. It's just my name. I make it super, super simple. And I also do have a free masterclass that if anyone wants to check out, it's called How to Quit Quitting, the 5 Human Tendencies that Lead to Self-Sabotage. Because as I said in the beginning, my whole theory is that if we can just get out of our own way and stop self-sabotaging, then that is what inherently leads to success. Because people think what they need is the perfect plan or the perfect strategy, when in reality, what you need to do is start and never stop. And if you just remain consistent for however long it takes, not 6 days, not 6 weeks, but 6 months, 6 years, you will find the success that you need. So I'm happy to throw a link to you, Sarah, that people can download that for free wherever they are.
Absolutely. Yeah, they can definitely do that. And then they can, we will definitely put that in the show notes as well. You guys, check out Paul and Healthy, Happy Human, Happy, Healthy Human, Happy, Healthy Human. And I know my listeners are like, how does she find people who align so much with her? And it's just magic. And I agree so much with getting past yourself, getting into action, spending your money in investment rather than scarcity, and really figuring out how to get wind behind you rather than always just like flying into the wind. So I appreciate this so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Have a great day.
Have a great day.